Hey guys, this is Jeremy with Patrick & Friends Music Company, and today we're going to talk about music production for beginners. Specifically, we're going to cover 4 essential plugins that you should be using in all of your productions and that should come standard in whatever DAW you're using. Those plugins are EQ, compression, reverb, and delay. This video is going to be about delay, so if you want to learn about those other 3 plugins, make sure to subscribe to the channel. So what is delay? Well, if you watched our video on reverb, you know that reverb is not a defined echo of a sound, but more the general ambience of a room getting reflected back at you. Delay is a defined echo of a sound. It's the process of playing the same sound over and over multiple times in a row, usually with some kind of change happening each time. Delays are often used to add rhythmic interest to specific sections of a song, or to help specific instruments or vocals fill out a mix more. Let's go over to the computer and I'll show you what I mean. So what I've done is I've imported a couple of loops off of Splice into Logic. This drum loop we're actually probably not going to use for most of the video. We were using this when we worked on EQ, compression, and reverb. So if you're interested in those topics, definitely go check out those videos. For now, we're going to keep it muted. We're just going to focus on this keys loop, which is where we have added an instance of Logic's delay plugin. Now, before I get too far into this, I should mention there are numerous different kinds of delays. There are stereo delays, sample delays, there are tape delays. You're going to find all different sorts of controls on any of those plugins, but I decided to go with this. The Logic calls it their echo delay, because this is the most basic. These controls that you'll find here are, they will be present on any delay you're using, and these are the most essential ones to kind of get a beginning grasp of how delay works. That being said, if you want us to dive deeper into all the different kinds of delay, let us know in the comments. And like I mentioned in my other videos, I'm using Logic because it is the DAW that I am most comfortable in. However, whatever DAW you're using should come with some sort of stock delay plugin. If it does not by chance, there are a lot of great delays that you can download for free off of the internet, and we'll link to a couple of those in the notes below. So you'll be happy to know that the delay module that we're using is actually a lot simpler than the other ones that we were using. There isn't as much to it as there was to reverb and compression and EQ. Similar to reverbs, we have this dry wet panel over here on the right, and this is actually where I'm going to want to start our lesson. So a dry signal in audio processing is a signal that does not have any effect on it whatsoever. This is just the pure, this is the keys loop that you're hearing right now, with no delay on it whatsoever. A wet signal is the signal with the effect on it. Now, on whatever delay plugin you're using, you could have a dry wet, just a single knob where 0 is dry and 100 is wet. And then if you were to go to 50, that would be half dry, half wet. Logic plugins are really nice in that they let you control these independently. So you can have 100% dry and any amount of wet, you can sort of set them however you want. But the main concept is the same, that if you have more dry signal, you have more of the pure keys without any delay. And the more wet you add, the more keys you'll hear. Now, I've set these to sort of have just a very brief, short delay, and I will bring that in slowly so you can hear it enter, and then I'm actually going to pull the keys out, and you'll hear the difference between the two signals. So right now, we are only listening to dry signal. This is no delay whatsoever. And I'll slowly bring in delay. And you can hear all the notes kind of repeat a little bit. That's what the delay is doing right now. And now I'm going to pull out the main keys, so the actual piano sample that we downloaded. And this really just sounds like the exact same piano sample, just slightly offset a little bit. It is a little bit brighter. That's controlled by this color knob over here. So not every delay is going to have something like this, but basically if you increase the color, you're sort of making it brighter and a little like edgier. And on this one, it sort of goes until you can barely even hear it. And then if you go the opposite direction, so at 0, it's a perfect recreation. It's just this sample being played again. This is just 2 copies of the keys sample. But then as you go lower, the sound will get darker. You'll start to lose some of those highs. Now, if your delay doesn't have a color control, don't worry. It's not ubiquitous on all delays. I'm going to leave this sort of wherever they recommended it, somewhere around there. The important controls are up here, the frequency and the feedback. We're actually going to start with the feedback first. What the feedback control does is it affects how many times the delay signal repeats itself. So right now at 0% feedback, and again, remember, we're not hearing the actual keys at the moment. When we have the keys in, we just hear a single repetition of the signal. As we increase feedback, we're going to hear more and more repetitions. And here at 100, it all starts to get really crazy and sort of repeat on itself intensely. I'm going to set it for now. I'm going to set it just so that we can hear it all. I'm going to set it pretty high. And what this frequency knob is going to do is it's going to change how quickly those repetitions happen. So right now, they're all an eighth note apart. You can hear 1 and 2 and. But if we wanted to space them out, maybe to quarter note triplets. Da, 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 da. And not all frequency knobs on a delay are going to be metronomic like this one. This one is sort of set to specifically line up with all of the, with the tempo of whatever project you're using. Sometimes it will literally just be a frequency, but the concept is the same, where if you were to set it at one extreme, they would all happen really, really fast. And then if you were to set it at the other extreme, they all get really, really spaced out. And basically, what you do is you use these 2 controls to sort of set whatever kind of delay you like, whatever sort of fits the vibe of the song. If you're using the delay to sort of create more rhythmic interest, you might set it maybe not to exactly an eighth note, but to some sort of dotted or triplet figure. And if you have any sort of color changing controls, you can decide how you like it to sound. I think I actually do like it brighter. So the last thing that we're going to do is we are going to bring the dry signal in, and we're going to sort of set how loud we want the delay to be. Right now, with the dry at 100 and the wet at 100, this means that the very first reflection, the very first delay signal, is going to be exactly as loud as the dry signal. More often than not, you're not going to want that. And this goes for if you have a single knob. If you were to set the value at 50, again, that'll mean equal dry to equal wet. And unless you're doing some interesting creative sound design ideas, you're probably not going to want your delay to be that strong. So I'm just going to dial it in. It's another one of those effects that's usually best when it's subtle. Just like reverb, which we discussed in the reverb video. I think I like that. And again, the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to A/B the signal. So I'm going to turn the plugin on and off so that you can hear it with the delay and without the delay, just to sort of hear the difference. So this is with delay. This is without. And turn it back on. So it's pretty subtle. Honestly, it could maybe even use a little bit less delay. Depends on what else is going on in the mix, but you can tell that it just makes the keys part just a little more interesting, gives it a little more energy. Just for the heck of it, let's add the drums in. Yeah, I like the sound of that. So hopefully this gives you a general idea of the most basic delay controls. Like I said before, you're going to encounter many, many different kinds of delays that have all sorts of different controls that will affect, just like this color knob, sort of how the sound of the delay sort of presents itself. There will also be controls like in a stereo delay of sending signals to the left side of the mix and to the right side of the mix. But at the very least, if you can sort of be comfortable with the difference between the frequency knob and the feedback knob and understanding how dry-wet relationship works, you should be able to comfortably approach any delay that you encounter. So those are the basics of delay. Hopefully, the next time you open it up in your DAW, you won't feel overwhelmed because now you know what all of the different controls can do. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on how to use delay in your mixes, let us know in the comments. And for more music lessons, make sure to subscribe to the Patrick and Friends YouTube channel.